You're watching the Desert Moon Hockey Podcast with Matt and Rich.
Welcome back to episode Baird Hayden of the Desert Moon Hockey Podcast. Thank you for listening to this week's episode as we approach the beginning of hockey season. How excited are you, Mr. Matt?
Oh, I was so excited. I went to the ASU's opening for the women's season, and I was like, hockey's back, just chilling in Oceanside, just like, yes, let's do this. I'm ready for 40 losses and a bunch of annoying memes, but I'm here for it with the brand new ASU hat. Absolutely love it. Not the dad hat my wife wanted me to wear because she wants me to look 40 apparently.
I understand that. I was convinced into buying some Crocs. I don't remember if I said that when I went to Disneyland, and man, I feel like an old man after wearing those shoes.
Don't diss Crocs. I go to
I don't diss them, man,
and get my cheap Crocs, but it's like I wear them everywhere. But I wear socks with my Crocs, so my feet don't stink.
Yep,
that's the Desert Moon experience. We talk about feet and Antonio Brown's blessings on this podcast to start off.
That is for sure. I think that we have only a few things to talk about really on this episode, and I don't see. I feel like it's a reoccurring thing on this podcast that I just say I don't remember what we said last week, and unfortunately that's like the ADHD brain kicking in. So you might end up just consistently hearing that throughout this episode. But we are approaching the beginning of the season, and we did get some unconfirmed news about some potential leaks with jerseys, and I'm pretty sure you've seen them online.
And we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, and the mock-ups, the ones we showed on screen, were just mock-ups by it was a Twitter account. I hope that it showed the information on screen and everything, but I did not think orange could work. Richie was like, all right, fine, more for me then. But I did not think an orange jersey could work. Like the concept, if it's like that, I'll be buying some. And what do you want to lead off with that? Since we're already talking about jerseys, since we can kind of because they renew a contract with a brand because they signed to a contract. I'm like, but weren't they there last year for a lot of the merchandising stuff?
I think so. And that's what the context is with this jersey, is that the Coyotes announced that they are continuing or renewing that partnership with, I'm drawing a blank on who it was, but they did a fashion line. Oh goodness, I forget the name of it, but they're pretty popular, pretty successful. And, it's good to hear, get somebody who knows fashion and do some fun stuff, be creative.
Mm-hmm. Be creative. Give us some cool stuff. Like back in the day, I feel like we got some pretty good designs. Like the snapback hat that I had, it was like Phoenix Coyotes with a little logo on the side. Do more with the Arizona State outline. There was one my brother-in-law got. He had this until his dog chewed it over 10-year period. But it had the Arizona State outline with a little coyote right here. It was. I want more cool fun stuff like that than just we're the Arizona Coyotes.
Yeah, and we had those partnerships last year or the year before. It all just runs blank in my mind. I'm pretty sure it was last year where we brought in, it was 3 different local artists to work on hats. And I only got one of the 3 hats. Unfortunately, I was busy with work for the other ones, but my dad has them. And those were all really, really cool. I like that idea of bringing in local artists to design stuff as well.
Yeah, it's just the more variety, because we're always going to get the standard stuff. We're always going to get, and we appreciate it. I don't mind boring designs, but it's give us something weird and out there, like what they were going to do in baseball, where they had the burrito on the D-backs hat and they canceled that line because it got clowned on so much. Look, if anyone has a prototype for that hat, I got a crisp $200 sitting right here for you, because that thing was disgusting, but I need it kind of disgusting. So I'm pretty give me more fun stuff like that.
Yeah. I can't remember. Was the they have a specific jersey that's Spanish themed. Is it Los D-backs or is it?
Yeah, Los D-backs, the
Los
Suns do it
D-backs.
too, with Los Suns.
Mhm.
The Coyotes had that, was it the Cinco de Mayo
Yeah, the
inspired
Cinco de
one?
Mayo
I mean,
ones.
and that, if they put that on like a regular jersey, it would be a fashion jersey, obviously. But I don't like changes to logos and whatnot, but the changes they did to the peyote head on that was like tasteful and like really artistic. Like, give me that. I wanted that on a jersey. I wanted that on a hat. I wanted to buy like 16 of them because that was just a phenomenal like design for it. And I'm
Yep.
like, please, more of that, please.
I really hope that we get more of that inspiration this year and into the future. You know, Arizona, that's like our culture. We're on the border. We're Southern culture. You know, we've got a blend of Spanish, Native, and then everybody else that's like come in, and it's like really, really cool to see all that Southern theme, right? There's a reason why we have the Arizona neckties, for instance, as Matt struggles with his camera. Yeah,
Dude, my arms are weak and flabby and tired, and I don't want to look fat the entire time. I know I'm fat, but like I don't want to look fat the entire time on camera.
For our audio listeners, this is why Matt sounds a little bit different this week. Is him being in Flagstaff? He's got us on phone, but at least he's got some video with us, so that's good.
And we also got a pretty nice view. There was a double rainbow before. I think it's gone now when it was raining, but it's a phenomenal view. I would not mind the concept of living in Flagstaff, but the actuality is it's probably not my scene. I'd probably go to Prescott Valley if I was moving up north.
Yeah, both are nice. I've got family in both Prescott and Flag. I do think that Flag is really like beautiful, just like consistently, and then you also have Humphreys Peak right there, so you can do like a lot of snowboarding and skiing and stuff. But man, I love massive city living. I don't know. I love the culture. I love the blends. I love everything being there, nice and convenient, stuff to do all the time.
I am the exact opposite. I literally like put me in Payson before it started expanding more, Sholo before it got put on the map, so to speak. Funny enough, my brother-in-law from Sholo, but like put me somewhere like there where it's like a nice. I don't even need like a big piece of land, but like a nice house, and I'm kind of like tucked away from a lot of people. I'm the reclusive type that, especially if I ever did like this full time, I could work from home and I would be just fine. Then go in the backyard and it's time to go, play in the woods with my dogs. Like that sounds like the ideal life for me.
That sounds a lot like there's a city further east of Sholo called Round Valley. It's Eager and Springerville. That's where my wife lived for 5 or 6 years, and she lived up there. It's only like 4,000 people, or at least at the time it was like 4,000. I think even that's expanding to like 8 or 9. But yeah, I understand the small town living vibes. I'm too lazy, and I love having my convenience. And yeah, but I will say the Starlink thing is pretty tempting. I have a friend who lives in the Round Valley area, and he has Starlink and consistently getting 100 upload and I think it's like 100 download and like 20 upload, which is pretty damn good for rural internet. That's pretty tempting.
Just saying. Because like my problem with like Flagstaff or Payson or whatever is like they've grown so much to where it's like it's pretty much like trying to put maybe like a smaller Tucson up in the mountains, because obviously it's not going to reach the size of the greater Phoenix area. Not going to be dumb on the pod, but it's like it's just kind of being a lot more people, more city-like, and it's like I'm the type that would just put me somewhere in the woods in Montana. I don't care. Give me an connection and keep me away from everybody.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
All right, so what topics do you want to talk about today?
I will say before we get into the topics, if you're listening to this podcast, just make sure that you toss us a follow, a subscription on whatever platform you're listening to us on. Leave a review. We would greatly appreciate it. It goes a long ways. As for topics to talk about, I don't know. Do we want to talk about how this preseason has been going so far? And
no.
What the experience was from the Friday's game after?
I haven't been watching because I'm like, it's hard to find sources to watch it, and it's like they don't count anyway. So I've been kind of busy, or kind of like I'll enjoy these last couple of like meaningless games I don't have to pay attention to, because as soon as we get into hockey season, you know me, it's like bam, 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 I'm watching everything I possibly can. But I want to talk about how is it so hard to get this Chikrin trade done. I want to.
Oh God.
You saw
Okay.
it. You can show the video right now.
I'll show it.
I flipped Chick and a second round draft pick for Kachuk, Norris, Pinto, and Grieg.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, how is it so hard, Bill Armstrong? Get it done, Bill Armstrong.
Yeah. I don't know if that's Sens fans overvaluing their prospects, or if that's EA, with their garbage coding. I'll just say it nicely.
Oh, I can explain it. That's my second season in my franchise mode.
Yeah.
And I won the cup. I went like 81-0-0 or like 82-0 or whatever the hell I did. And I had Chikrin score like 20 goals and somewhere around like 80 something points with the amount of assists that were running around. So his value went up. But I couldn't trade for Austin Matthews because no matter how I got Ovechkin on the team, so I threw him in the deal. I threw Kaprizov, because I got him in like free agency or something. I threw him in the deal. I couldn't make the money work, and they kept telling me that they're unwilling. So I went to Ottawa and just like, I'll get everything. But no, when it comes to like, I think Ottawa fans, they're overvaluing the prospects a little bit, I suppose. But I think it's more so they don't want to give up anything. It's like, hey, we want your best player, because objectively speaking, it's Kells and Chick. Pick whichever order. I think Kells is a better player, but he also plays a more valuable position in terms of scoring, not in terms of the defensive side of the game. But he's also doing that pretty well, just not on the level of Chikrin. So it's like, we want your best player, arguably one of your two best players, but you can't have any of our best prospects. And then I'm like, then why would I give you one of our best players?
Yeah, well, Keller hasn't received any trophy votes in his entire career aside from the Calder, right? Like, Chikrin has at least had votes for the Norris. Yes, he didn't have a good season last season, but I mean, man, if he goes into this season, watch out. I think he's going to be a man on a mission for those first like 10, 15 games to prove everybody that he is the player that is to be expected.
And all I know is that if they can just get Ottawa and Edmonton, because they've reportedly both been in, then out, then in, then out. So we'll just assume those are the two main teams right now. If we can get them in the right bidding war, and Chikrin comes out, because I predicted on social media, I want to have it on video right now, he will be traded by December 1st. That's just calling my shot, Babe Ruth style. No insider information on anything. It would make good timing, because also at the Tempe Arena, they want that done right around holiday season. It would be pretty good timing for the future kind of starting to really mold in front of us. So that's why I'm going with that. But, if he comes out first 10, 15 games, if he's on a point per game or even a little under a point per game pace, that price goes right back up. And if you get enough teams, you get a couple of injuries, hopefully nothing major. Not going to wish any injuries on anyone, but they do happen. You get a couple of injuries, like, hey, we can use this guy. Not the trade in the video, obviously, but it's entirely possible you can get Grieg and or Pinto plus some stuff.
Yeah.
If he comes out and does that, things still need to be met, because he did just come off a really bad season. He has had a lack of availability on the ice overall. There are those concerns that are going to drive the price down right now. But guess what? Same thing with winning in attendance. It fixes everything. So go out there, get a couple of extra wins for us, because we're going to probably taper off at the end of the season with the trade deadline. So a couple extra early wins, get me some points, get your value up. I'm criticize the contract, but never like hated the player. Go wherever you need to go, Chick. Just please get us a good return. I have nothing personal.
Yep. I think you nailed it. I don't think there's really much else to say aside from just, Coyotes fans, if you're listening to this, if you see him come opening night ceremony, treat him with respect. It's a guy who, he didn't just say, oh, I'm not playing for this team, I'm not doing anything for this team. He's still trying to be a good sport. He's still trying to be out there taking care of what he needs to do as a business sense. Please don't boo him or berate him for wanting out, okay? That's all I got to say. Please be kind, okay? you know, ultimately we're going through a rebuild, and if he returns with some amazing assets, you know, you can't be mad. You can't be mad. So be nice to him. Don't be a dick. Aside from that, that's my soapbox, and I'm gonna get off of it.
I'd say don't be a Richard, but no, like seriously, like when the type of contract happened, it's probably being pitched to him as we're going to the playoffs. We'll be in the playoffs in the next 2 to 3 seasons, and we'll be competing past that. I mean, hell, I was even on record, and I stand by it. You know, before last season, they did not need to enter a rebuild. They still had a playoff caliber team, but they were probably a wild card playoff team. So, you know, GMBA looks at it. He's like, this isn't going to get us very far. Let's just hard reset right now. Just go through all the pain, get it out of the way. It ended up being for the best overall, but I sure wasn't happy about it at the time. But how do you think Chick feels? It's literally, you know, you're pitching it as we're going to be a contender. And then after a couple of years, because of a lot of things primarily off the ice, hey, we're going right back into a rebuild. It's like, I understand his perspective, especially my concern we've talked about with you, you know, is that the double knee surgery, he's also talking about how careers don't last that long. We also talk about the possibility of even if he plays well, we would be a little weary of wanting another contract with him because of that, because it will catch up to him. Yep. What if he's also on the same mindset there, even just like as an additional concern? So just like I said, it's a little funny to go from this fan base all offseason. We don't need to trade Chikrin. That's a stupid idea. Then he comes out and says the thing that we've all known. If you would have read Craig Morgan's reporting at the end of the season, we did an interview with him. You would have known if you read between the lines. He pretty much said it without saying it. So it's like now it's like, oh, get him out of here. It's like, calm down. It's like no hate. No hate. He's not trashing the organization, not trashing the fans. It's kind of like Michael Bunting, where Michael Bunting said, I would have come back, but, you know, I just wanted to go explore other opportunities. Same thing here. Just let's move on gracefully. And also, you know, if we do get, let's just say Riley Grieg, right? And then, God forbid, Chikrin's just not the same player in 3-4 years and he's just going down a cliff. You're going to be looking at that trade like we got this strong asset for a guy that had less staying power. So no matter how you want to look at it, there's the cynical, the positive, the amicable. Pick a side and look at it through that lens, because no matter what, it's for the best for everyone.
Yep. Yeah, and to add on to that point, you know, if Chikrin's in his prime currently, and we already are going through a rebuild, don't kid yourself, don't joke yourself, even though, Matt, I know you like to say we might be more competitive than you think this year. Let's not kid ourselves. We're going through a rebuild, right? We finished second to last year. It's probably going to be roughly close, if not the same, this year. The more years of Chikrin's prime that are wasted, you know, is just a hindrance to his career. It's like what we've been saying with McDavid in Ottawa. Now, finally, Ottawa is, or not, did I say Ottawa? Oilers. Edmonton. I was thinking Oilers, and just like the O in my brain was like Ottawa. No, the Oilers. Could you imagine if he was on Ottawa? No, but
right now with that team, oh my God.
Yeah, McDavid, you know, with the Oilers, we were saying like this is a guy who hasn't been in the playoffs. We need to see him in the playoffs. He sells tickets. It's the same thing with Chikrin. Like, he's a good player. He will sell tickets. You want him on a team that's in the playoffs. That's just honestly the truth. And if his career is at its prime and it's only going to go down from here, you know, get him into the playoffs. Get him onto a team that's going to be pushing for the playoffs.
All right. And want to talk briefly about some ASU hockey? Want to just do just a little ASU hockey just to kind of get a little more on a positive note from the Chikrin talk?
Yeah, so I'm assuming you're going to be talking about the game that they won 3-0.
Yep. Didn't get to watch it. I was at work. It was like a 10-hour shift or whatever. Completely just dead by the end of that. But TJ Septenfelter had his first, I think this said NCAA level shutout, but first of the Sun Devil. And I think he's looked good numbers wise all three of the games so far. I mean, 35 saves in both game 1 and 2, but just gave up 3 and 4 goals respectively, and they ended up losing those games. And again, going into that, Duluth where they were ranked 5 in like the season rankings, like that's a really good team right there. It's a good squad. And this little no-name team, and Arizona State went in there and played well with them. I know the second game was a lot more in favor of Duluth, but still, Minnesota Duluth, good team. And it's Bemidji State. I'm terrible with pronunciation.
I think it's Bemidji. Yeah.
Bemidji State. They're the Beavers, and they win 3-0. TJ Seftenfelter had a great game, and I don't have the notes in front of me.
40. I think it was a 40 save shutout. I want to say. Really,
that kid is ridiculous. Like, I wasn't just saying that because someone with the last name Seftenfelter followed me on Twitter. He actually is a phenomenal goaltender, but I'm also just not afraid to lose my knees or something. Just a little baseball bat action. But do you have the notes in front of you so we can talk about the goals? Because I know, I think it was.
I don't.
Was it Matthew Moe got his first goal, or was it? Well, one of the kids got their first goals. So I just want to make sure we have the notes in front of us so we can talk about it.
Hold on. I'm going to pull it up while you're talking, okay?
All right, I'll just fill a space. There is no ASU women's this week. Their next game is on the 12th. It's at Mullet Arena, and barring me starting some business over there, I will be attending the game. So hopefully they'll be able to win that one. They're already up 2-0 or just 2-0 so far this season. I think they still have ties in college, so overtime losses don't have that third category. I think it's ties. So they had a hot start to the season, beating the Utah Utes. I think we talked about it a little bit last week, but now we talk about the ASU boys, and I'm just looking at the scoreboard for where's my Joshua Doan? Where's the donor? All right, where's future Captain Coyote?
No donor. So I do have the scoring summary here. The first period, there was a goal by. Oh goodness, I'm terrible with names, so this is gonna be awful.
Is it Copperwood or Kuzmuncies?
It's Copperwood. Thank you for saying it.
Matthew Copperwood?
Yeah, Copperwood. And then assisted by Dylan Jackson. And then in the third period, we had a goal by Jackson Niedermeyer. And the assist on that was Ryan Alexander and Demetrios
is it Demetrius Kuzmuncies?
Kuzmuncies, there you go. That's man, I'm awful.
Once. I always said Kuzmuncis or Kumatis or whatever, but as soon as I heard someone say it, I'm like, makes perfect sense. Demetrius Kuzmuncies.
And then an unassisted goal by Ty Merchantson.
Ty Merchantson?
There you go, Merchantson. I'm
so that
awful
means
with names.
Joshua Doan has no points through 3 games?
I don't believe so, no. I don't
think I know it was Lucas Sillinger had a goal from Robert Mastroianni, I think, in the second game against Minnesota Duluth. So it was like the newbies are getting on the board, but I'm like, I'm waiting for Donor. Don't obviously panic, right? Donor's a bust, right? Go ahead and toss him into the Grand Canyon. He's never going to be as good as his dad or something 3 games into the season.
Yeah, so 3 games, I do not believe he has any points.
But at least ASU, they are 1-2. There's a game going on. I want to say as we're talking, and if they can at least win that, they bounce back to go to 2-2. Season's looking pretty good. I just hope that it's a little better than last year, because last year they had a pretty good squad as I was taking notes throughout the season, but it's like they just never ran away with it. I think they finished at 500 or either slightly above or slightly below. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I apologize, but it's like they were a good team, just not good enough. I'm just hoping with a lot of these additions, because Mastroianni, Sillinger, I think they're the Jackson brothers, the Ty and Dylan Jackson, they got a couple of really good players, and then and then TJ Seftenfelter as a goaltender. That I think that this team should be so much better this year.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm trying to find the saves. This is kind of hard to.
So you go to individuals and you go all the way down, because the ASC website, with their scorecards, is weird. Go all the way down and it'll show you the total shots as well as goals against. So just take the total shots, subtract the goals against, and there's your saves.
Gotcha.
But
yeah. So TJ did have a 40 save shutout.
Ridiculous. He's already ready to be a Coyote, because Kemper is always facing 30, 40 shots. Pamelka, his numbers look bad because he's facing 35 to 52 shots a night.
Well, if we're going to talk about shots and unreal saves, man, there was that game against Las Vegas where freaking Aiden Hill put up a 50 saves on 3 goals on 50 saves or whatever in the preseason. That was crazy.
Yeah, I made a joke about that. I'm like, it's required by law. Aiden Hill must face at least like 35 to 50 shots a game or 40 plus shots a game.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah. So, anyways, do you want to talk about preseason, or you're just like, nah, I'm good?
I'm so checked out. I mean, we could talk about who we think is going to make the roster. Because I think Michelli had a really solid goal last night on the first shot. Because I was watching, looking at Craig Morgan's feed, who follows me on Twitter now, by the way. So I'm a little terrified. I can't crap post as much anymore. I'm being watched by the professionals. But he was like, oh, they will get a shot on goal. And I think he's like Michelli scored on the first shot the Coyotes recorded that night.
That was back on Tuesday against Vegas. And then they had a game on Friday, and then we're actually recording this Saturday, so they are currently playing right now as we speak, and they are down apparently 2-0, according to this tracker.
We got shut out by Vancouver, so it's not really surprising.
Yeah, so I was going to quickly talk about that Vancouver game. Yikes. They got shut out 4-0 in Vancouver, and they only had 7 shots on goal. That was a complete domination with, I think it was 10 penalties, I want to say. Yeah, it was brutal.
So OEL, I noticed, had I think 1 assist or 2 assists because for whatever reason the other preseason games I got no notifications. This one randomly I start getting notifications on my phone. I'm like, oh hey, they scored. I think Elias Pettersson scored in the third goal of the game or something.
Yep.
Just off memory. So I guess my memory isn't going that much. I'm not that old yet, but there really isn't much to talk about. Like I know it's preseason, but it's also like I don't know how much of it is the offense isn't settled in yet because obviously even Kells isn't back yet. I have no idea how much of it is guys are like, hey, I know I'm going to make the roster anyway, so I'm just going to not try, but kind of coast to the regular season. And I have no idea how much of any of that is any of that, but I was going to assume it's preseason. It is what it is. They have gone winless so far, I think, the entire preseason.
Yes. Yep.
And
I just wanted to quickly throw out there for that Canucks game, they were missing like so many important pieces that are like crucial to this team. So no Boyd. I want to say Boyd Gordon,
Travis
but that's
Boyd.
not it. Travis Boyd. No Travis Boyd. No Nick Schmaltz. No Clayton Keller. And then on the defense, obviously no Chikrin, no Gostisbehere, no JJ Moser. Like there was a lot of pieces missing off that roster. And Lawson Krause wasn't there. Like, yeah, it was. You're playing an AHL team. Like, I hope you win that well because you're literally playing an AHL team.
So a couple of the guys that are standing out, I know Gunnar looked really good in the rookie tournament, and he's looked decent throughout the preseason. I know just the couple things that stuck out to me is in that game in Tucson. One thing that like stuck out on a handful of shifts is that he just didn't have like the killer instinct quite yet, and I wasn't sure if it was just because it was a preseason game or not. So like that's when I sent out that tweet. I'm like, he's a great young player. He's not going to make the team this year, which to me is fine. You play with the big boys as long as you can, then you go back to the minors and you work on whatever you need to. Hell, look at Connor Geekie. It was 4 goals in his first 2 games after getting sent down. Like when you play with the NHLers and then get sent down, it gives you much better perspective. On top of that, you know what you need to work on. You actually know by experiencing how much faster everything is. Like I know a lot of the guys, especially college kids and juniors kids, will always say that's like the game, the speed of the game, how fast it is. So it's like that's really valuable. He'll be on the team next year.
Yep.
And I have no problems with that, nothing at all. So it's like Gunnar, good. I want Michelli a full season down in Tucson. Like I want him to hit like 30 goals down there. The problem is if he hits 30 goals down there, he's going to do what he did last season and force his way onto the roster again. But like last season, he had a couple points in his first few games, and then I kind of got bullied around a little bit. So it's like, did he put on enough weight in the off season? Because you can adjust that. You can, keep working harder. You can put on a little bit more weight, be able to take some more of the contact. But has he done that?
Yep.
So far in the preseason, I don't think I can fairly assess anything I've seen because it's preseason. How many guys are trying 100%? So it's like I don't want to look too deep into any one or 2 aspects of it. But I'm like, put him back down in Tucson. I want to be cautious. I know Craig Morgan responded to me on Twitter when I said I know I'm cautious, but I want him in Tucson. And he's like, he's also on the play it safe side, and he thinks that GM Bill Armstrong is also on the same page there. So hopefully that's just putting him where he should be for now. He's probably going to be, in my opinion, maybe even a slightly better Connor Garland. Take away the physical aspect, but a little more like sharp on the passing, a little bit of a better shot. So I'm like, you kind of already had another Connor Garland. You just had to wait a couple of years in the oven.
The only thing I'm worried about with that comparison is that Connor Garland was fearless in the corners, and he still is. He's a fearless corner player, and I don't know if I've seen a lot of that out of Michelli yet. I've seen him go into the corners, but I haven't seen him have that drive, that want to just absolutely dig out the puck and do by any means necessary. If he can find that, I think that will secure him as well.
I agree. Is Garland's shorter than him, right?
Yeah. 100%.
All right, because I know Michelli is a little undersized, not like super short or anything, but it's like I think a part of that might have also been a guy like Garland with the offensive skill. You're not going to get drafted based on just your pure offensive skill because he's undersized, he'll get bullied in the NHL, yada yada, and then he falls to the 4th, 5th round. But if you also have that grit to your game and that fearlessness, you're going to earn your way into a roster spot. And It's like he developed that, and it's just. He'll be on an NHL roster spot as long as he wants to, as long as he's, good health and everything.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I think really is holding back Michelli is that drive to be fearless. Because the skill, the hands, the vision, it's all there. The shot's okay. I wouldn't say his shot has been anything spectacular, but I don't think you need it to be, right? Like, it's like Keller. Like, Keller has a decent shot. I wouldn't say it's bad, but his shot's not his, like, his apex of his talents. It's like just something in the tool bag. It's nothing insane. And I think that Michelli is kind of in a similar path as maybe like a Keller is. I really do hope that Michelli can stand out because I don't know if he'll ever be able to crack the top 6 without that like fearless want and drive into the corners, because that's something that you really want to see out of a player like that.
Well, especially with Turney's system. I was always told it's Turnier, but everyone since the season started was Turini. I'm just gonna stick to Turnier though, but it's Turnier's system is very clearly physical. He wants physicality. He wants you to be tough to play against. He's like. I don't even think Turnier cares if you lose 10-0. Did you win in hits? Did you out hit your opponent? Did you make them have to work for every single thing they got? That's kind of how the system is. So it's like Garland would have been perfect in this system. Like if Turnier was the coach, 3 years ago, Garland's getting a chance earlier.
Yeah,
getting the lineup earlier because of that grit.
100%, I agree with you. There was that game like a few years back in Boston that Connor Garland had. And I think after that game, everybody recognized what he was. Even though he had like 2 or 3 scoring chances. He didn't end up scoring. But just like that fearlessness that he had against Boston. I remember that game and I was just like, yep, this guy is definitely going to be in the NHL. And, I've liked what I've seen from Michelli, but I haven't seen that like, yep, this guy's an NHL, like guaranteed player. So it's just something that he needs to work on. Back to what you're talking about when you're talking to pros, when you're talking to a Zach Cassian on your team and he's telling you like this is what you need to do to be an everyday NHLer, that's valuable. That's the same with, whether it's Michelli or Gunnar, whoever, those are the players that you want to be talking to know what you need to do to be a better player.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes literally, and just I'm hoping that it's the same thing with Connor Geekie right now because those first couple of games were to me really, really impressive.
Yeah,
is you learn the lesson and you immediately start working on it, and that should realistically it can change a timeline from when you're drafted to even after that first training camp. From if Connor Geekie was supposed to take 3 to 5 years, it could be 2 to 4, and that's shaving a year off is ridiculously valuable. So it's like I just. Player development, and it's the best aspect of getting the veterans in right now is you want these kids to know exactly what they have to do. I am going to disagree a little bit with I've seen that Michele should be an NHLer, but I think that you specifically said everyday NHLer, not just an NHLer. So
Yeah.
I think we're probably on at least the same page. But I'm also a fire type player in Pokemon, so it's like I like big number, I like quickness, I like big damage on board. So you throw up some big points, and I'm all for it.
The other cool thing, I don't know if we talked about this last episode, but we also did hire on, I think, 2 other people to be development coaches as well. So that's nice to hear. Once again, all you critical people about the ownership group, look at how much is being invested in talent scouting, how much is being invested in drafting, how much is being invested into developing those people that have been drafted. That's a lot of money, and that's money that this team hasn't been able to pay for in previous past, and that's the money that you need to put it in. Arguably the most important part if you are a Coyotes fan. So, yeah, I think that's good to hear. I think it was 2 other people who were also hired on. I also know that they hired on one of the coaches that they had like a few years back. They brought in, I think it's 2 African-American coaches, and they were they're both brought in, and one of them was hired on as a development coach, I believe. So I think they have 3 development coaches and 1 head development coach. So
it's stuff that they've needed for a long time. And again, I'll bang on about this over and over again. This is just going to be, go ahead and turn your headphones off for 3 seconds. But ownership, quality ownership. You need the arena, a quality, well-placed arena, and winning on the ice. They're working on getting that arena. They're already in a good spot. They were the ticket, 4,700 seats, and ticket sales going up, revenues going up, exactly like Bettman said. It's a hockey market. We're in a hockey market. Everyone can see that. The people that just don't like Arizona as a market or don't like the team, whatever your personal bias is, it's just kind of a little sad, but it's like the people that are important realize the hockey market, and now you're going to be developing that winning culture, those winning players. We're going to win a Stanley Cup. 2025 as a meme might have been a little early, but was it 2027? Because there's an interesting stat. Is only 2 teams have gone undefeated in preseason. One was the worst Colorado Avalanche team in history, and one was the Coyotes a couple years ago. So it was like 7 years later they win the Cup. So I'm like 2027.
There you go.
2027, the Coyotes are going to win the Stanley Cup.
Go. That's the magic ticket right there. That's the ticket that we needed. All I'm going to say is Connor Bedard's going to look real great in a Kachina.
All I'm going to say is that Russian kid's going to look great in a Kachina.
I doubt it. I still think I think that if we're not picking Bedard, it has to be a Fantilli. It has to be. I do like.
You don't think we get Michkov?
I think Michkov is good. We don't need him. We have Dylan Guenther. We don't need a scoring winger. We need centers. We desperately need centers. As many as we can bring in.
Just patching up that center spot for a while now. Like we went to having to kick Nathan Smith down to the minors because we put a good enough center depth down there. Now we're not a playoff team yet, so obviously your point is still valid. We still need like elite level centers, but we're addressing the center problem.
We are. I'm not doubting that. We now have Smith, McBain, Hayden. Who else is there? Cooley, Geeky,
first line center Boyd,
Travis Boyd. Yep. It's all starting to get there, but we need that generational talent on the first line center spot. We need it.
Logan Cooley. You mean player of the week? Logan Cooley?
I like
his first game. Logan Cooley?
I like Cooley. I'm just cautiously optimistic with him. I love Cooley. He was the player that I wanted the Coyotes to draft in this year's draft. If we weren't going to get Shane Wright, and then obviously Shane Wright was there, but I agree. Ultimately, picking Cooley was probably the right decision. But just because of the back end stuff that we were potentially hearing allegedly, so we want somebody who's going to want to come here and play. But I'm being cautiously optimistic with Cooley. Okay, cautious. I don't want to call him generational just yet.
I will say this right now with full confidence. I am willing to take this shot. He will be a better NHLer than Peter Mueller and Kyle Turris and Max Domi. He'll be a better NHLer than most of the last players that we've been like, oh, this is our guy. He's going to be our guy for the future. He's going to be like a top 6 minimum, player in this league.
Here's the concerning part, though. You know who you didn't put on that list?
Who?
The other 3rd overall pick, Dylan Strome.
I forgot. He will be a better NHLer than Dylan Strome.
I'm cautious. See, this is why I'm cautious, okay? Because you know what? Dylan Strome went back down to the minors and then had a better season than Connor McDavid did, okay? So be careful. That's all I'm saying. Be careful.
That's fair. Now we've gotten all this out of the way.
Yeah.
Is there any last topics you want to talk about, or do you want to get into some personal stuff?
What time are we at? Oh, God, we're already pretty far into this podcast. Holy smokes.
I don't have a timestamp.
We're approaching 40 minutes, so we're pretty deep in. So I will say I just want to quickly go over how we're going to look this season, like players to watch, and then we can get into personal stuff. Is that all right?
Yeah, fine. I just wanted to see where the timestamp was at and everything.
Fine. All right. I see.
What?
Yeah. Huh? All right. So players to watch. I'm going to quickly get into this. Man, Barrett Hayton has looked like a man on a mission. I think he has like 6 points in 4 games. I hope it continues, because if he can solidify at least a second line center position this year, I will be extremely happy with his development, because, man, it was looking a little grim, and looking back at that draft and all the players that we passed up on for him, right? It was a little scary, because I remember that draft. I said if Tkachuk wasn't there, which he wasn't, that we should pick up Quentin Hughes, and seeing how well Quentin Hughes has been doing offensively in Vancouver has been real sad. So I want Barrett Hayton to succeed. I don't want him to loom in that shadow in my mind. I want him to be the guy that we look back on and go, okay, this might be the best centerman in the draft.
All I'm going to say is, with how I've noticed a little bit, because some of the highlights I was watching, and I think I tuned in for a little bit of one of the games that he was playing in. Mm-hmm. I want to say it was against Anaheim, but memory. But just the different way he's skating, the kind of the drive he's developed so far just in the preseason. So again, cautious, but it looks like maybe whatever was said behind the scenes, because there was that long negotiation. Yep. There was the long silence. There was is he still going to be here? Like, are they going to try to trade him? What's going on here? Maybe something was said that essentially jolted him, that essentially got him to wake up from whatever is, like, whether it is just he fully healed, whether it was a mental block, whether it was fully embracing a rebuild, anything that was said. Maybe it was literally just like the classic, oh, you ain't good enough kid. Maybe. Yeah. I got no inside sources, like none. But that probably communicates to me something was said, and he is now like dead set on proving it wrong. Even if what was said was as simple as you're not worth $6 million a season, and he's like, I'm going to be. Even if it's something as simple as that. So I'm like, if he continues it into the regular season, let's say if he can get to 19 goals this year.
Yep.
I'll take it. I wanted 20 goals, but the amount of times I've said, oh, he should be a 20-goal scorer, and they didn't, I'm like, I'm just going to say 19, change it up a little bit. If he can get 19 goals, I'm more than happy. If he can get, would you say 35 is asking too much, or would you say around 40 is where, like, you want him to be this year and in that
points or assists?
Goal? Points, total points.
I would say, man, I'm going to go with the Derek Stepan approach. It's got to be 55. Mr. puts up 55 points a season. I would say 55 is my goal. If you're in the second line position, I want to see 55 points and I'm happy.
I'll take minimum 45 then, or 40, like 40. You know what? 41 minimum. Give me like a half a point per game. Like I know that's a little bit of adjusted standards and whatnot, but like I also don't want to put too much on the kid just yet. It's like he's showing good development. It's been consistent, but I want to see that jump. So 41 points will be a success in my mind.
Okay.
Another player to watch, Jackery McBain, the man among children all throughout the rookie camp, all throughout the prospect camp, all throughout the training camp so far that I've seen.
Yep.
The fact that even Nathan Smith was on a different level and he didn't make the team. And rosters are not finalized. McBain could still get sent down. I don't see it, but then again, I also saw both him and Smith making the roster. So make of that what you will. But he beat out Smith, and I think to a small degree, not quite like 100%, but like in terms of overall production, I think Smith outplayed him.
Yeah.
I like McBain's game more, but I think that Smith, scoring-wise, outplayed him, and he got sent down. Like, I think McBain's going to be around a 20-goal scorer.
I think
how good he is.
I think the reason for that was because we could see McBain playing the bottom six, and he'd be good. And I think ultimately they didn't see Nathan Smith surpassing anybody in the top six. So I think that was kind of what happened, whereas I think Nathan Smith might have been the better player over Jack McBain, but given the role availability, that was what probably forced their hand. What surprised me is just how quickly out of camp he was, right? I figured he would at least make it to the final cut. And then you're like, okay, you looked great. We're sending you down. But, you know, to drop him down so quickly, that was the surprise to me.
That even makes sense because, like, if McBain, let's say it's like that would also fit with literally what I just said, where it's like, you know, Smith was a better offensive player. If they know what their top six already looks like, which is going to be Schmaltz, Keller, Boyd, that's already your top line, probably Krauser, Hayton, and you could throw anyone else on the right side. But I don't know if they're like, hey, Smith is a more natural center. We want to keep him at center, or if they just have someone else to outplay him for that, you know, right shot side, that right side. It's looking at it like McBain does more all around, so he fits the mold perfectly for depth scoring and defensive responsibility and good face-off percentages on that third line spot. Whereas, you know, Smith works better as a second line person, but he's just not good enough yet. So it's like, okay, if we get an injury, let's just say to that right shot side, whoever takes that right wing side, okay, Smith, you're coming up, and that's your spot, that's your shot. So I'm like, that would also like line up perfectly. So I think we're kind of in sync on that one. But I still would not be surprised if McBain ends up getting into some. Actually, now that I think about it, what if that's another factor of why Hayden looks so good? Because he knows that with how well McBain and Smith were playing, he would have gotten passed up if he didn't hit another year. And it was literally just another way to unlock more out of the prospects you had. Like that. Yeah. I don't think McBain's going to care about getting third line minutes. I still a top six role at the NHL level. And I think he's good enough for it.
It makes sense. You know, competition is good. This is why you have to light a fire under a developing player's butt. You know, this is why. This is what gets them to that next level. They're not just given a role and told this is your role. We've seen that in the past with the Coyotes, and you end up with Brendan Pirolini. Sorry, but it's true, you know? And actually lighting a fire under a developing player's butt and telling them, your position could be gone in, you know, one bad game. Don't F up. And, yeah, I actually agree with you. That makes a lot of sense of why we're seeing some really good play out of Barrett Hayton. Because we've seen it before in the past. Like, when he got that call-up last year, those first few games, he looked, you know, ecstatic. He looked great. And then it kind of just tapered off a little by little. And it makes sense, you know. Hey, prove yourself, or else there's somebody hungrier behind you that will take it.
And McBain and Smith are very hungry. I was enamored by both the entire camp. Literally not a single minute of the camp was I like, oh, Smith looks okay, or McBain looks kind of like, no. I was enamored the entire time. So it's like, that should also just go to compliment the work that Hayton's putting in right now. So it's like, I don't care if it took all these extremes for the stars to align. The stars did, and as long as they keep aligning, because it's one thing for preseason. Once again, cautious optimism, but it's one thing for preseason. But if it continues in the regular season, boy, like I've been saying, even as of last year, and guess what? They were better than people thought they were last year. I was right. They might be better than you expect. does not mean they're not finishing bottom 5. I would take 5th, though, a couple spots higher, but
yeah.
Go get me a top 5 pick.
All right, I got one more, and then we'll get into the personals. All right, I don't think anybody is too surprised. I think we were shocked, but we weren't surprised at the production that Clayton Keller produced at last year. 67 games played before his injury, 63 points, 28 goals, 35 assists. He was on pace for 77 points. Barring injury, obviously, do you think that we are going to see this Clayton Keller that we saw last season at a 77-point pace? Maybe does he even hit 80 points this year? What are your thoughts?
I need to see him skate. Like, nothing against Kells. I went from being very critical to loving all the overall, improvements in his game. He is, him and Chick, the best players in the team. I think Clayton Keller is the best player. So that's the perspective I'm coming at this question from. I have to see him skate. He was supposed to skate, I think, last night, and they decided to just take him out for the rest of the preseason, the entire preseason, for kind of precautionary reasons. And I agree and disagree, because if he comes out to a sluggish start, it could either almost derail the train that is the season, or it could just be that, a sluggish start.
Yeah.
And there also could be the mental aspect I was talking about when he got injured of he also might not be the same exact skater and overall player he was, because you break your femur clean and tell me that you feel 100% confident going as fast as he used to. So It's like, not saying he can't, but I need to see him skate.
Yep.
If he looks good, close to the Clayton Keller of last year, 30 goals, at least 40 assists, not even like a question. 100%, 70 points. Not even questioning it. If there's any other variable there, it depends on how anything else moves forward. And I really want to see this kid come out and like score in the first game. I want to see a hot start. I want to see him look just like the old Clayton Keller. I want people to look at my like caution here and be like, "You're an idiot." Please. I want to be called an idiot, because like he's the future. It's him, Gunner, Cooley. It's like these are guys that they need to all be there at their best, and I don't want to see like Clayton Keller's career derail. So it's a bit of a convoluted answer, but it comes down to I need to see him skate.
Okay, fair enough. Well, that's all that I have. So do you want to move on, or do you have anything else?
Look to JJ Moser to establish himself as a full-time top four, like full-time, not just fringe, not just, it's like he was so impressive last year. And I know
I agree.
A lot of injuries, a lot of it's like, I don't see there being 4 defensemen better than him on the team. Yep. No disrespect to anyone. Yep. That is how like above, like shatter my expectations. I knew he was good defensively. I didn't know he could add the amount of depth scoring that he did, because I expected nothing. The kind of on ice by example leadership I saw out of a 20-year-old, 21-year-old kid, like that, you can't teach that stuff. How responsible he was, positioning.
I was going to say the crazy part is if Chychrun gets traded, I suspect that Gostisbehere is going to get traded at the deadline. All of a sudden, Moser is our first line left wing, lefty. Like that's a big jump for a young kid like that. So I'm really curious to see how he takes that, because all of a sudden, man, you are commanding that first line lefty position, and I'm really curious to see how he's going to embrace that at the end of the season. If obviously there aren't another player that comes in via trade or something like that,
unless we get like a superstar defenseman or something.
Yeah, who knows?
But all I know is that it's just I keep an eye on him. I do also want to bring a cautious eye, like not a player to look for in like the positive sense, but a player to look for. And I know, and I do believe this: defensemen take longer, goalies take longer. Soderstrom has to show something this year, because he was kind of getting that shot back in the offense back a little bit in the AHL. When he came back up, I saw nothing at the NHL level. It isn't just about scoring. It's about also showing that shoot first. Like that quote, and it was whenever he took Capobianco's spot, I think a year or two ago, he's like, I would just shoot the puck. and he came in for a couple of games. He did that, and I was like, that shoot first. That's one of your biggest strengths. Very, good with moving the puck. I think his defense is okay. I think he got a little bit better defensively, strictly defensively. But I need to see you're an NHL level player. I want that offense back, because if he can't get the offense back, we wasted, 7th overall for him on what will end up being.
It was 11th or 12th, I want to say. Yeah.
Then we wasted 11th overall on essentially a bottom pairing defensive defenseman. And you can use those, but I would have rather had Cole Caulfield.
Yeah, well,
honestly.
I mean, with the amount of hype that he was getting too in that draft, like people crazy enough, including myself, were saying that, I wouldn't say he was as good, but there were some comparables to like a Victor Hedman, like a light Victor Hedman, like a really light. Like I'm not talking Norris caliber. I'm just saying like the play style of Victor Hedman. And
so it's like I want some of that back.
Yeah.
It's like I need that back, because like anything less than that is a bust. And nothing against him personally, but it's just, especially when we know what we could have got, and we needed that scoring winger. Cole Caulfield would have been great with Coach Tournier and this system, this kind of building. Or if Coach Tournier comes in anyway and they still try to compete, Cole Caulfield would have helped us with that. Doesn't mean he'd have been the exact same player, because, player development for this franchise in Montreal is different. But still, I would have rather had that offensive upside, because if Soderstrom doesn't start to show something, it's like nothing personal. I would have rather had, Caulfield.
Yeah, of course, 100%. I think everybody can agree with that. I think it really comes down to that post-deadline team. The way it looks, it's going to be ravaged with trades. I'm suspecting it now. The amount of retainment slots that the Coyotes have, I think they still have 2, correct? Like,
I think it's at least 2.
Yeah, like you're going to be able to retain on at least 2 players this deadline. Players that are on expiring contracts that you're going to see teams pick up. I'm not going to say Patrick Nemeth is going to get traded for a lot, but I could see a veteran defenseman right-handed like him. You retain on that. All of a sudden, I think he's like $1 million. A team's going to pay like a 6th or 7th just to have that insurance that can sit in the healthy scratch.
Especially if he plays better this year. Like, especially if with that ice time, he's like a little lower pressure, a different kind of role. Gets the ice time, improves. Then he goes from that reputation he had coming out of, New York. A lot of New York fans were like, oh, good, thanks for taking our trash, essentially. But it's like, if we can turn that into even a 5th round pick, like that's probably the highest value it would be.
It wouldn't be any higher than that.
If you can turn it into that, like, that's a win.
Yeah.
Honestly, hand to God, that's a win.
Well, it's important too, because like back to the player thing, like all of a sudden, sorry, my eye is watering. I just got like something in my nose. I think somebody started cooking. I got like a aroma kind of smell, like an onion almost. All of a sudden that position opens up for a Soderstrom. It opens up for, somebody in the development phase that's going to be hungry and want to get into that position. Yeah, I would say we are approaching almost an hour. So do we want to move on to talking some personal news real quick?
I'd like to. I got something pretty fun.
All right, tell me all about what you pulled, mister.
That was on payday. That was like I went to get my comic books.
Of course it was payday. That was payday for you after that pull.
And then I'll get this box of Brilliant Stars. I never opened a box, and then I got the gold rare Charizard. It's funny because I had some individual packs, and online when you can redeem your packs, I pulled the gold rare or the gold Charizard V-Star, not gold, rainbow, the rainbow Charizard V-Star. I'm like, oh, the pulls are insane online. And on my first box, I'm not buying another box, by the way. First box, I pulled one of those, so that was pretty fun. But no, the better news.
Okay, let's do the better news.
Other than me having I spent too much of that paycheck, so now I got like $107 for gas for the next 2 weeks.
Oh, that's
so I am literally the definition of responsible. So kids, spend all your money. Don't think about it. Call off work.
I'll get you about a full tank of gas.
Hey, if I can ride the light rail, it's funny. If I can just get myself to one of those parking rides to the light rail, all right, it's 64 for 31 days. Meaning, if I did that plus gas, and the gas wouldn't be that much because it's cutting out a lot of the mileage, I could literally cut my gas bill from I was setting $200 a paycheck aside when I was working in Buckeye to I could probably get down to like $1.50, $1.40, and that's extra money I can throw into a box and be like, that's my savings account. But anyway. The exciting news. I just got off work working at the stadium, setting up sidelines or whatever, and I get a call. After I'd already accepted the call wasn't going to happen because it was taking a while for me. All right, we have a job. We have one job opening, and it's yours if you want it. I accept. Yes, the meme. Me applying for a job I did not think I was qualified for, just to say it on the podcast. Yeah, I got it. I freaking got it. I don't work for ASU. I work for the company that is running the Mullet Arena. Yep. But hopefully, once I got the paperwork sent over to me and everything, I'll be starting by Sun Devils opening night. Hopefully, so it's like I'm ecstatic. Like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to be able to open up a hockey stadium, open up a hockey arena. Like,
yep.
Like I've got obviously. Anything like I don't know what my employment contracts or anything is gonna say, but I'll just go ahead and say it right now. I'll disclose anytime I have to talk about stuff that like would pertain to the arena. Anything that I hear from like a boss, anything I hear from like anyone that works for this company, like that, I'm just not gonna be allowed to say.
Yeah,
I can talk to Richie personally off the show, but like, you know, if there's certain stuff that like I shouldn't be talking about, like I'm just not going to.
Yeah, don't. That is absolutely the right call. And I mean, that's an unreal experience, man. That sounds really awesome. I know my grandfather, before he passed away, you know, he was starting to head down the dementia hole, but like an experience that he absolutely loved and like never forgot was his ability to go and stand on the D-backs roof, because he helped design the roof opening and closing. And then he also helped design the roof for the Cardinals as well, their opening roof. And before he passed away, like those were two experiences that he like never forgot, and he always talked about those. And it's something similar. Like obviously, like it's not as hands-on with you. Like you didn't design something there, but like to have that experience of I was there when this arena was built. You know, I was there. I was the first guy to do this position when they started. You know, that's a really cool experience. I think that's going to be really awesome.
I was like, during the tour, I was a kid in a candy store. Like when I was standing next to Josh Doan's locker, I was like, I couldn't take the picture. Yeah. But I was just excited, like just like a giddy school girl or whatever. Just such a cool experience. Like I got to work at the Coyotes arena. I started like as a parking lot attendant when I was 18. Did some guest services, did some operation stuff there. So I worked there a couple of times. My dad, like, I grew up in Gila River Arena, Jobbing.com, because my dad started working there in 2007. Yeah. I worked at Camelback Ranch very briefly, and then my dad worked there, so I also spent a lot of time there. I worked at the Cardinal Stadium now 3 separate occasions. Probably still going to be there at least a day a week or so. I like going over there, but it's like it's always a cool experience. You get to work in these facilities, but especially for the hockey. Like I love baseball. Football is a sport I like when I'm drinking, but it's like hockey is just different level, man. I'm so freaking stoked. Just yep. It's also why I'm gonna be on my best behavior. So I'm also saying it right now. Like if there's stuff that I shouldn't be talking about, not gonna. If there's stuff that I have information on that I shouldn't share, that information's not getting shared. Just straight up. If there is some stuff that like if I can read and it's like publicly available and I can like stretch it a little bit, maybe I'll only the publicly available stuff. But even then, that's like we're stretching a wire. Like that is like the closest I'm getting to that line because like I wouldn't want to ruin this.
Yeah.
But I'm so freaking excited, dude.
Yeah, that sounds awesome, man. I'm excited for you. I'm real excited. All right, well, I think that's gonna wrap up. We're over an hour, so we're right at our mark. Thank you so much for listening. If you've gotten to this point, I don't know why you haven't subscribed or liked or followed and done all the cool stuff that, you know, the algorithm likes. Aside from that, you know, episode Barrett Hayden is now drawn to a close, and all we can hope for is Barrett Hayden to do much better than this podcast and just absolutely kill it.
You don't think he'll get 93 goals this year?
No, don't think that. But I will say, if he hits 55 points, I will be very happy with that. Very, very happy.
20 goals, 30 assists. If this drive continues throughout the season, 20 goals, 30 assists, I have no problem predicting that. That should be realistic. Again, if it continues, just want to make sure that asterisk is there in bold lettering on screen.
Yep. Alrighty. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next week.